on entry, it gets me like really. I don't mind having a loose back end. I don't really. That doesn't bother me. In fact, I usually tail back um, my
The bias?
bias a little
Yeah.
bit, just because I don't. I like to kind of feel that rear end a little bit.
Yeah.
But on entry, I rely on feeling the fronts, and I don't feel them at all. At least yesterday, I didn't feel them at all.
Yeah, I definitely I had a similar thing in my lap, so I really felt like I had to wait for the front end to bite. So it was quite easy to go into a corner a bit too quickly, and find yourself missing an apex.
Yeah.
Particularly in the fast corners, weirdly, you'd expect there to be a bit more downforce
Yeah.
and it to stick. But like the final corner, for example, or turn three, the long right hander, there were quite a few where
Yeah.
I found I was quicker by just slowing it down a bit more on entry, being a little bit more like not slow, but just not trying to brake as late and as hard as possible. Like
Yeah.
just backing it off a little early, and then I'd make up the time through the corner because I'd be a lot more accurate. But let's see what it looks like with you in these specific conditions on this exact setup, and I'll make comment when I've seen it. But I'm quite familiar with this track, so it's quite when I used to do a lot of iRacing, this is quite a regular trap. So hope,
Awesome. Well,
hopefully we can
I'll give it
get you
my best
quick.
shot.
Excellent. Right, let's go do some laps and let's do some long runs actually because it does seem to get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. So
Okay.
let's give you a chance to get up to speed.
Fair enough. I unfortunately need much more time than you do to do that, so I'll do my best.
So I'm just coughing at you. I'm going to try and mute myself when I'm coughing. I apparently in the last 3 minutes have developed a cough. Right, here we go. Yeah, so don't. I say this a lot, but don't judge the car on its performance on the
Yeah.
first couple of laps because it's going to change a lot. In particular, I found that turn three went from quite a big lift to essentially flat out or very nearly flat out once everything was warm. So it made quite a big difference. But yeah, just don't force it. Just let the tyres warm up. Let the car come to you. Keep it nice and smooth. I actually now can take a look at some of these grandstands that I couldn't see when I was driving. It's particularly brutal off track through Campsa, that corner you've just been through. It gives you an off track very, very readily there. So
Yeah.
I think if you touch the green at all, pretty much, or you know any significant amount of the car on the green.
I don't know the line through this corner here very well, I have to say.
Okay. I tend to just try and hug the inside um, and wait until I've definitely got enough room on the exit. That final corner there, you actually can use quite a lot of track
Yeah.
limits, so you probably
I
found these.
intended to. Ooh, no grip at all there. Ooh.
And the understeer through there is pretty horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does it does obviously get slightly better, but it doesn't get massively better. I think maybe the open setup sessions, obviously where you can get you know you can tailor your front end a bit more. It'll probably feel a lot nicer.
That's ragged. I feel like all over the place.
I'll give you a few more laps before I start
Yeah.
like chipping in. I'll let you
Thank
settle
you.
down, but I won't just let you struggle. Okay, it's looking a bit more tidy now. This is looking a little bit more together.
Behind has just done a 124.3.
Oh, that'll cost me.
I think we should go at least 8 laps on this run to really give you a chance to, get everything working, and everything's definitely warm. The fuel comes down a little bit. Everything just seems to work slightly nicer. That's probably the corner I struggle with the most, getting the nose in without being too slow. I found it very easy to go wide, but hard to carry speed and be accurate.
Okay, see if I can do a little bit better.
Yeah, considering turn 3 was not very good on that lap, that's not too bad actually.
Oh, not good.
If you do find yourself running wide there, you can kind of just accept it and just let the car run wide, and just make sure you get back over to the left before the next corner, but you don't have to immediately sacrifice, if you see what I mean. You can kind of just go, well, screw it, I'm going to go wide this time, and just start getting on the gas. You can actually mitigate quite a lot of the time loss.
The guy behind has just done a 123.
Okay, we're getting quicker still. This is good. Let's keep going for a few more.
No, got.
Oh, it's so easy to go into there, slightly too quick.
Yeah.
I did that so many times. That's where I dragged the gravel on.
Did it again.
Yeah, and that time you couldn't really have run with it because it would have just gone off onto the grass. Right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit on this next lap. It might be distracting and it might be difficult to process it whilst you're driving, but I'm going to just say a few things anyway. So the first thing is turn 3. So after you've done the right and the left that's coming up, turn 3, I try and sacrifice the exit of turn 2 slightly to get a nicer entry line into turn 3. So I kind of hover off the throttle slightly on the exit of turn 2. So you can just get a little bit of an easier run in here. And that varies obviously depending on how you've ended up through turn 2.
Yeah.
I think we're doing these couple of corners quite similarly.
That one was a little bit risky.
Okay, now this is tricky, but this next corner, the fast right of Campsa, it needs a slightly later turn in with this setup.
Yeah.
And then you don't run as easily wide, but it's very, very tough to thread the needle. And it's this left-hander where I brake early and just try and be super accurate, and then just pick up the throttle quite early as well. Those were the main differences I've seen so far in our laps. And then the penultimate corner, the next one coming up, I'd take full throttle from quite early on. Just an early turn and full throttle. It does require an early turn, though. You've got to touch the inside curb to make it work. Give it a try on the next lap. Just like confidently turn towards the apex curb, and it should go through. You almost have to like anticipate the understeer that's going to happen. When you've done a couple more, we'll do a bit of a video review, because I think it's the lines that are going to make more sense. That was tidy. Yeah, so that, I know you probably got an off track, but you were very nearly there. You didn't? Okay, perfect. In that case, that was really, really nice. So you can get away with more of that green than I thought, because
The track temperature's decreasing. It's
I
now
felt like I
23
was not
Celsius.
going that wide.
Late.
Yeah, just need a slightly earlier turn in. Right, let's do one more, and then we'll have a look at whichever one we think is the best. Well held.
Lost all my time. That time I did get an off track.
Which is weird, because it looked like you were less wide than the previous one, but it's obviously where you're wide. Maybe on the previous lap you were wider slightly later on, and it doesn't ping you for it as easily. Oh, oh, okay. Well, we won't take this lap.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's okay. I think the previous lap, to be honest, you've been quite consistent in how you've been approaching some of these corners. So I think it doesn't really matter which one we look at. You're going to see the same differences. So let's take that previous lap as our initial baseline.
That's unfortunate. I was almost a second up.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we know there's that potential. Where was it? Is it the first sector that you were up?
I was up going through the 1, 2, 3 complex,
Yeah.
and then I maintained going through 4. Didn't gain much going through the hairpin, but a little bit. Maintained going through the little weird kinky, and then the fast right I gained.
Okay. Yep.
And then, of course, I got an off track there, which I didn't think I should have, but whatever. And then that kind of funny, what is it? The turn 10, the left-hander, which is hard to gauge.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
fast. I was faster, a lot faster going through that one.
Okay.
This time.
Okay, so we'll probably find an immediate improvement anyway. So I'll tell you what. Let's for the data, we'll look at your last complete lap. In fact,
Yeah.
yeah, no, okay, we'll do the same lap of video and which is this one here, because that next lap doesn't even exist for me because it wasn't a complete one.
Yeah.
So let's just watch it, because there's a few things that I just want to show you where your approach is a little bit different to mine. So So turn 1, I'll show you yours first since we're already on board with you. We'll look at the specific speeds and all that kind of thing in a moment, but just in terms of the line, it's visually going to look quite obviously different. So this is obviously normal, this is all good. And again, like this is basically exactly what I'm doing. Although we were slightly deep on this lap. But where it changes, where we differ a bit, is in your willingness to let the car... In fact, let's get down a bit lower. I thought I saved these cameras. I'll try again. There we go. In your willingness to let the car go all the way here. Even if you weren't out on the green every lap, you were definitely wide out here. And what that then does is it means you enter this corner already on the inside, and you have to lift quite early in order to not then run wide on the exit. So just by way of comparison, I think this is going to look quite starkly different in a moment. So we're the same here, and then on the exit... You see, I'm not letting my car go anywhere near there. But what that then means is I can... You see how wide I am on the entry here for quite a long time. And this is at the point where you're already pressed up against the curb. It then allows me to stay full throttle all the way out to there just. Now, most laps I wasn't full throttle. This was the final lap of a run. So most laps I would be having a slight lift. So let's just go for one that's earlier on in the run. So let's go for, say, this one here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's early enough that the fuel level's probably comparable to what you had, and the tyre, temperature and everything's probably similar. So again, nowhere near that. Now you're probably going to see me lift though into here. Let's have a look. Still though, very, very wide on the approach into here, and we're full throttle here. Do I have a lift? I must. Yes. Then there's a lift there, but then back to full throttle. You see how brief it is. So it's really compromising the exit of 2 really allows you to flow into 3 and carry a ton of speed. And when we look at the data, I bet this is one of our biggest differences. So yeah, okay. So ignoring our speed across the start line, because you had a 2.5 tenth deficit at that point just from the exit of the previous lap. That's kind of nullified by here anyway. So it's here that you really see the difference. Now, what's interesting is, I would have thought we'd see you carrying more speed here than me because you're going wider. But actually, I'm going quicker and staying tighter. So it's definitely possible. And you can see it's such a stark difference there between where our lines are. It's like, I know it's obvious on the video, but up until that point, we're quite similar. I know you went a tiny bit deep there, but we could take a different lap where you didn't, and I think you deliberetely go out here. So, but what that difference definitely does is allows this difference in speed here. So what's the time difference? So we're at 3.25, and then by the time we break for the next corner, so it's 0.3 through that corner by tweaking that. So it'd be definitely 0.2, even if you don't perfect it. So that's the first thing. I think that's our first change that we'll make. Let's get back on board with you. And just in terms of how you do that, obviously it's one thing saying don't go wide. We'll probably see quite a big difference. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, so actually it's not that big a difference in the throttle. Not as big as I thought. You can see you lift here. I lift a little bit more significantly here, but it's only 10% or so. The big difference is the steering angle. So when you look down here, I just turn tighter. See the blue steering, I get up to like 97, whereas you're down to 33. So that suggests that you're just deliberately letting it flow. So actually you don't have to compromise your exit speed that much. You can just do a tiny bit more of a lift and just turn more, and the car will go.
I'm also a little bit nervous about the lack of grip and the amount of understeer that I feel, and so that's why my input is less than probably it would have if I felt more front end.
Yeah, and interestingly, I mean, I'll tell you what, just before we look at your lap, just so we're definitely, let's go for like a worst case scenario. I'll go to lap 3, so you can see a lap I did with really cold tyres, and let's just see if it's similarly possible. Just to give you a bit more confidence on the... Yeah, I mean, even then...
You did it.
I'm doing a lift here to allow it to set up, and then back to full throttle by here, and that's enough to not induce any understeer, and then I'm still able to just turn in full throttle but the lift is probably going to come earlier this time. Yeah, there we go. See, slightly earlier because the tyres are still a bit colder, but you can still enter quite a lot quicker. So I think through that one, just trust the car a bit more and you'll be quicker. Right, let's see the next section. I think we're quite similar. Certainly visually, I like how much entry curb you're using here. I wasn't using that much. I was scared of an off-track, but you're just confidently doing it. Let's take a quick look at the data of this next corner. Yeah, we're not that far apart here. So your lap you did there and my lap, we're doing a similar thing. And your trail braking's really nice as well. Oh, what are we got engine revs. They've added revs to Garage 61. That's new.
Where is
that?
it?
Where my cursor is down here. This normally is just gear position, but now we've got gear position and revs. That's great.
Okay.
That's new. I've never seen that before. I'm pleased with that. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So the only real difference is there's a point in the middle of the early braking phase where you're trailing slightly too firmly just here, where I've done my initial brake. I'm still trailing, but I just bleed off enough to like release the car into the corner. So it's at this point here. So it's actually pretty early on in the corner where you are coming off the brakes, but I come off slightly more severely and just let the car roll on in, and it just kind of, the front end grips enough, and that's this little, what is it? It's like 8 kilometers an hour difference. So there's a little tiny, it's a little bump in time, so a tenth and a half or so through there, but we're not massively different. This is where it gets a little bit more different. In fact, this corner and the next corner, both of these, you and I have a very similar difference, and this corner here later on. So let's look at it. It's kind of a more exaggerated version of what we just spoke about. So let's just zoom in here. So yeah, look at the big difference here. I'm braking exactly the same deceleration rate as you here, and then it gets to here, and basically I just release the car into the corner. I end up actually going slightly slower on the exit. I go a bit too wide, but I've made up quite a big chunk of time. So on the delta, I go from 0.788 to 1. Yeah, so it's 2/10. It's a little 2/10 jump. It initially looks like a 3/10 jump, but then you get a better exit than me, so it's like 2/10. But it's all from where it's this point here where we brake kind of the same harshness, and then I just bleed off earlier and release the car in, and then do a bit of a longer trail. It's similar here. You see, it's where and it's exactly what we were saying on the previous corner, where your brake trailing kind of fills in the gap, whereas I've got a slightly more deliberate brake off and then kind of threshold here. It's this bit here where you stay on a bit longer, where you slow it down more than you necessarily need to. So it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to gaze at because you don't want to be running deep. So it does rely on coming off but still trailing. You don't come off and like let go. You come off just a bit more than you currently are. You've got almost your trail braking is almost too perfect. It's like too smooth. But that smoothness is meaning you're keeping too much pressure on in this middle phase, where clearly the car is capable of carrying a bit more entry speed as long as you're still keeping the weight on the nose. So that's going to be something you'll gain quite a bit of time, because you see on the delta it's a step and another step. It's a very definite. Yeah, here it's like 2.5 tenths as well. So those two corners, they're a little bit under the radar. You wouldn't expect to see much of a difference there, but when you combine those, you go from 0.785 down to 1.3. That's 6 tenths in those two corners, roughly combined. Potential. So even if you bludgeon it a bit and kind of just do something similar to me there, you'll find 4 tenths, just like that. So I wasn't expecting to see that, but yeah, that's definitely a brake release thing. You just need to come off the brake. Once you've done that initial hard braking, you can kind of let the car roll on in. I'll tell you what, before we move on, let's just watch what it looks like. So it's not this corner. This is the one we were quite similar. It's this one. Right, so essentially, let's just focus on that one before we look at the next one. You're very, very under control. Through this phase here, the car very neatly tucks in. There's not really any understeer or oversteer. It just kind of does what you tell it to. Okay, I'll just watch it one more time in full speed before we look at mine. So there's full speed. And I'm going to guess that you're about to see a bit more of a fight going on this one. I'm not thinking about that, but I bet that's what it... I bet it just looks a bit more difficult. Right, so the early braking phase is going to be the same. So you'll see my inputs, obviously. So that's about the same. It's there where I kind of release and roll on in. And it does grip. So let's just look in slow-mo. So I'm coming off quite low amount of brake. A little bit more of a trail just to make sure we touch the apex. Yeah, I mean, it actually still looks relatively under control. I'm just making it look easy. But it's not. It was quite a lot of work, but essentially the main message is you've got potential to carry a bit more entry speed. Let's just look at this one too whilst we're on board with me. Same thing, off here. I'm basically letting the front tyres and the scrub do a bit of the work without overturning. But yeah, okay. So that's a couple of areas where there's some definite time. Let's skip through to camp. So right now, here we go. Now you're quicker than me through here. So this one, you're quicker. This is the one I thought. Well, this is me again, obviously. So let's see how much off track I was willing to give it. Nothing at all. I was terrified of running wide. So you've gained your time by being braver with that running. In fact, we can see here, can't we? You've gained your time by like allowing it to run wider, and it worked. But the fact that you let it run wide there, I think, is what saved you. If you went wide a bit earlier, I think that's when you get the off track. But what you're doing is better. So don't change Campsa. You've gained time on me there. So how much? So 3:15, and then obviously the time you gain down the next straight. Yeah, you've gained like a 1/10.5 at least back on me by the next corner. So that's good. Keep doing that the same. I suspected I was going to see you beat me through there because I knew I didn't do it very well. I was like, something about this, I'm not nailing it. So well done on that one. And then into the next one, pretty good. And you said you were quicker on the following lap. So
yeah, much quicker.
Okay, so we'll pay attention to that next time. Let's not worry too much here. The main thing is I'd say you probably go slightly too wide, but you know, it doesn't mean a lot unless this corner is significantly slower. And actually, it is on this occasion. You've had to go in quite a bit slower because you're more pressed up against the edge here. So, okay, we'll see what your next one looks like. I don't want to judge that, because if you've done it completely differently, then that's probably not relevant. You didn't get to this next corner, though. So here we go. Here's another difference. This is quite significant. And, you know, I said I'm just full throttle through here. You can see I wasn't telling porkies. I am completely... Does that translate to American?
No, but I know what it means.
Okay, fine. Porky pie is Cockney rhyming slang, isn't it? Porky pies lies. There we go.
Yeah.
I had to reverse engineer that to figure it out for myself. Yeah, so it's definitely full throttle. And interestingly, look, you're actually turning... It looks like you're turning earlier than me. But I think we're not looking at the bigger picture. Let's go back to here and zoom out. And now, when we look at the right turn, it's here. Oh my goodness, it's subtle. You see, just here, I'm just turning in a tiny, tiny bit earlier, where I'm at 23 degrees and you're at 16. And now we're the same. And then I'm 10 degrees more than you at this point. And then I don't need as much lock, because I've done an earlier turn. I actually get away with less lock, and you're using more through the rest of the corner, yet you're running wider. So it's that early. It's where you make the turn in. It's like back here, whereas yours was a tiny bit delayed. You don't really see it clearly enough on this because it's so subtle, but definitely you need to get it aimed at that curb.
And it's kind of a blind apex there. I'm not
Yeah.
quite to it yet.
It is. Let's go. Well, since we're already on board with me, let's just skip to it and then we'll look at yours. Right. So on the onboard, this is what. Yeah, you're right. It's completely blind. I'm really making sure.
You're just heading towards the cones.
Yeah, that's a really good visual reference point there. So in slow-mo.
And I think I'm waiting till I see the white.
Basically, because it's so flat here as well, you can just send it and it doesn't even matter if you turn too early. You'll just cut across a bit of that and it doesn't really affect you. So I think we should practice that a few times in this next one. Just go in early. And I had loads of room on the exit still, and it wasn't a hint of a lift. So, and that was on other laps as well. So now let's just look at yours through there. and then we'll get back to you doing some driving. Because I think you're probably going to find a whole chunk of time, even on the early laps.
I hope so.
Right, let's look here. Yeah, it's way. It feels more. It feels later than the data shows when I watch that. Mentally, I'm like, there's a split second where I'm like, turn, and the car doesn't turn. Yeah, it's just too late by the time we get the lock on. You can kind of feel it now you've seen it the other way.
It's because I'm looking for the white. You can even see it. Once I see the white, then I turn, but I'm too late.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
So let's just aim basically at the outermost cone. And then if that's too early, we'll just tailor it and go slightly later. But definitely full throttle. Full throttle once the tyres are warm. It's probably not on lap 2 or 3. In fact, just to give you a reference, let's take my lap 3 and just check before we then look at the final corner. I want to give you the confidence that you don't have to wait too long. Let's see. Was I flat out on this lap? Let's watch. Yeah, lap 3. It was easy flat. So there we go. At the very least, you can go from there. And let's go to the final corner.
And were you in what gear? I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, fine. So through there, I'm in 5th, and so are you. But you're then going up to 6th and back down to 5th. I mean, I did that on some laps as well. It doesn't really make much difference because I think you and I are pretty similar through the final corner. You went through the middle slightly quicker than me, but got a slightly worse exit. So you can probably afford to maybe slow it down and just trail slightly longer, just to make sure the nose definitely goes in. But yeah, you're not a million miles away through the final corner. It's a very gradual loss, so you'll probably nail it on this next one. So yeah, main things then. Turn 2, compromise the exit slightly so you're middle of the track as you approach turn 3. That'll allow you to carry the throttle in longer without a lift. So even on this one, you're not doing a full lift, which is great, but you're having to lift like here before you're even in. Whereas even on the laps where I lifted, it was about here. It was quite a lot further into the corner. So that's the first thing. That next right-hander wasn't very much different. It's these two, the tight left and the more open left. We need to, once the tyres are warm, we need to do the hard initial brake, but then just like bleed off and let the scrub of the front tyres take you towards the apex. And then if you need a little extra tweak of the brakes to make sure you hit the apex, you can do that. But it's not a very hard brake. It's mainly hard, bleed off quite significantly, little tweak again if necessary. It's these little nodule brakes at the end here, if necessary. And then the other thing, Campser, keep doing the same as you were. That was great. The left-hander after that, you've done it better than that, and you weren't far off anyway on that lap. That'll then give you an easier entry to that long right because you won't be all the way tight to the inside. Flat out for the penultimate corner, and yeah, maybe slightly more mid-corner speed compromise for the final corner so you get a better exit, but that's it. That's probably enough to take in, isn't it? Let's go.
Yeah, I think so. I'll do my best. Okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, remind me while I'm warming my tires up here. There's something that I wanted to ask you about. The amount of, I don't know if you have a way of measuring how stiff your brake is.
Ooh. Yeah, okay. That's a good question. I don't have a very objective way, but we can do some.
I'm asking is that where were we last? We were where I was pretty
Hockenheim?
fast.
Yeah, Hockenheim.
Hockenheim, yeah. I felt like I was actually getting to the point where I was kind of mushing my brake, like it wasn't quite stiff enough for what I required. And I've never had that feeling before.
Yeah, okay. That's good. I like people who prefer firmer brake pedals. Question for you then. What pedals have you got? Just remind me.
So I have the semi-cube pedals, the active pedals.
Ooh, the really fancy ones.
Yeah, I didn't always have them, but if you remember, I don't know, it's probably 6 months ago I bought them.
Right, okay. Okay. You obviously told me at the time, I just forgotten. So that was slightly too early, but now you've got like an extreme reference. You can go
Yeah.
slightly later than that. I don't want to distract you too much whilst you're doing these laps, but the good news is, at least with those active pedals, you can tailor it very specifically,
Yeah.
can't you? So
That's kind of why I was asking.
yeah, okay. What we'll do is I'll film my pedal, and I'll film me pressing it with a lot of force, so like maximum brake into a hairpin force, and you can see how, like, physically how far it moves, and then maybe that will give you a bit of an idea of if I was on your sim, what I'd try and tailor the pedal to. Doesn't mean you have to do it the same. I like a particularly firm brake pedal, but you'll at least have an idea of how I run it.
I tried, but it wasn't a very good effort.
The main thing is you don't stop braking, so you are braking the entire time. You're just trailing at a lesser pressure on the way to the apex, but you're kind of reserving the right to add a little bit of additional pressure to tailor it when you're approaching the apex if required. I'd say again that was a bit too early,
Yeah.
but closer.
I'm gonna get it.
You are going to get it.
Sometime.
And it'll be easy. Once you've done it once, it'll be like, oh, how was I not just doing that every single time before? Obviously, the tyres aren't up to optimal just yet anyway, so...
Especially when you do that.
Now they'll be slightly over optimal. That's okay. There's enough time on the rest of this lap to cool them down again.
Good, because I'll need it. Are you going in second?
Yes. That was closer. We're getting closer. Wow, you put a lot of gravel on the track there.
Yeah.
But it's so realistic now, though. I love that. That's a really, really good little addition. iRacing. I love the constant improvement on iRacing. Yeah, so your line through there is way better now. When you hook that up on a fast lap, that's going to be a lot quicker.
No, I overslowed.
You'll see on your delta, which is a good thing. You know, you'll see it go green at the right point if you're doing it right. That's more like it. That's more like you're very, very nearly there now with that.
Somehow it's leaving me a little out of line from what I'm used to.
I think
on the last turn.
you're probably arriving slightly quicker than normal.
Yeah.
And there's loads of gravel everywhere, which isn't helping.
Yeah.
That's the best line I've seen you do through that section. Yeah, nice. Now it's hooked up. Yeah, I just think you're arriving at the final corner quicker than normal. Yeah. Okay, that's a lot faster. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep building on that. But really, really nice, though. You're implementing this well.
Nope, too much curb. Cost me.
You're really good through camp, sir. That's really nice to watch through there. So this next right-hander, try and hug it a bit closer, even if it means going slower through the middle. I always find quite a big time gain the tighter I get through there.
Nope, did it again.
It's okay. You kept it just about on. Very consistent times as well. Considering you lost some time on the curb in turn 3 as well. And the more you get into the stint, yeah, really, really good. The more you get into the stint, the more you can consider taking that full throttle through that turn 3. It's definitely possible once the fuel comes down a little bit.
I was on the brake or pedal too fast there.
Nice and flowing through there. That looked really good. Well controlled and really good line through there. Yeah, this is nice. It's looking hooked up now. This is good. You got the fundamentals. Yeah, really good. Yeah, 4/10 better as well. This is great. Let's do another 2 maybe, and then we'll dig into some more detail.
Nope, I ended up in 4th. I don't know why.
Really nice. That section's looking nice now.
Nope. I feel like I'm going so slow through here.
how much easier is that penultimate corner now you know it's flat out
Yeah.
every time? Like, suddenly you don't actually have to think about that corner anymore. You just keep your foot down. This is great. Very neat into that first corner. Very accurate. This might be
Nope,
full
too
throttle
much.
now.
That would have been, but I had to lift for the
Yeah,
curve.
that's all right.
I'm never quite sure of the right line through this.
Okay,
to
we'll
say.
look at that in particular on this next review. So let's do one more after this, just to give you an opportunity to try turn 3 at full throttle. So easy through there now.
I didn't do the last turn very well.
Right, let's do one more lap and just see if we can
Okay.
absolutely nail turn 3. Yeah, nice. Was that full throttle?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And the line you're doing into there is good, by the way. You kind of go to the apex and then let it flow wide whilst getting on the throttle as early as you can. That's a good line.
That was horrible. That was way too early. Well, I gave some away, but that was a decent lap.
Yeah, very good effort. I know there's a couple of tenths gone in one of the middle corners, but let's look at that one anyway, and we'll take that into account that there was a better potential.
No.
I'm going to give you 10 points for effort. You were definitely trying hard into there. It's all right. You're gonna go quicker. Like these laps are, they might seem like they're decent now, but you're gonna go even quicker. So, let's take that last lap as our reference,
Yeah.
and dig down into some more depth because you nailed that as always. You put into practice what we spoke about straight away. So that's really good. Right, let's grab that data. Once it loads. And I'm just going to load up that lap as well. There we go.
That sucks because I was 4 tenths up.
It hasn't loaded just yet.
And I think I was trying to protect myself going into that hard left.
Okay.
I thought I'm 4 tenths up. I'm going to brake a little bit early, but I braked earlier than I was used to, and then I turned in earlier.
Yeah, okay.
And then I was screwed.
Right, so I'm just trying to get Garage 61 to open. Here we go. There we go. So that we'll take that lap because you've got 2 purple sectors on that lap. So it's going to be better around most of the track. And let's make that a nice bright green. We're going to see some really, really nice improvements here. There we go. Okay, so you still gave away a tenth before turn 1 by not getting as good an exit out of the final corner. So that's interesting. So there's a tenth from cleanly getting through the final corner. But yeah, let's leave that aside. I mean, look at here, this section here. Where now you and I are essentially the same. You're slowing it down slightly more neatly into turn 1 rather than going in a bit faster and coming out slower. You then quicker through turn 2 despite keeping it tight, almost exactly the line I'm doing, and then we're basically identical through the long right. So that's great. Really, really good. You've gone from losing how many tenths before that next corner, so say half a second before the next corner, to not losing anything, because you lost a tenth on the main straight and you're 0.110 down by here. So you've completely pulled level there. And then these two corners that we specifically looked at. So, first of all, sorry, this right-hander, you were asking about the line. Okay, so interestingly, on this lap, on your best lap, you went a bit wider than the ideal through there.
I think I felt like I was carrying more speed into the entry. I'm not sure if it
and you did. Yeah, so you're 0.112 down on the entry, and then by the middle you've gained nearly a tenth, and then on the exit, because of that extra distance, you lose all that again. So yeah, by here, so yeah, you kind of lose roughly a tenth or so by trying to go in a bit quicker and ending up running wider. So I think that's slightly too far in that direction, that compromise.
Yeah, so, and I don't think I tried to so much as it's just I found myself there with like a little more speed than I wanted.
Okay. Okay. So just try and, although you do want to run wide, you don't want to run wide that early. You kind of need to. I mean, in fact, you can see the line. Mine's not necessarily the perfect line, but it's working, and you kind of make an apex. You then hover near the inside and then as the corner kind of straightens out, you get increasingly wider and wider. So just don't go wide too early, that's all. Right, it was the next two corners were these ones that we were focusing on. So you definitely have made an improvement here into this tight left-hander. It's not quite there, but you've found some time into there, so that's good. The next one you've nearly perfected. So if anything, let's see. So you're 864, and by the time you get to Campsa, 851. You've pulled 100th back on me through that one, so that's good. So it's just this one. Oh, we know this one went badly, didn't it, on this lap? This was why it wasn't even quicker, because you ran wide on the exit there. Yeah, look, you've had to get out of the gas just here. So, well, look at this. Look at that wobble on the green line on the exit. Yeah, so this bit just wasn't good. This one corner here was like your worst corner on the lap. So let's not read too much into that. Campsa, somehow you found even more time. You were already quicker than me through there. You're now way quicker than me. So what are you gaining now? You're 851 by the next corner. Yeah, you're gaining like 2/10 now on me through Campsa. So
just so you know, I delayed my entry a little bit.
Okay.
It seemed to make me even a little faster.
You're doing a smoother roll off the throttle. So very slightly earlier, but more smooth. Whereas I'm like off, back on, off. I'm being more jagged. So you're doing a much more nice, smooth approach into Campsa. So that's really good. So keep that up. Then into the next complex. So let's look to the final third of the lap. You almost can't tell you and me apart into here, and you're doing that rolling off the brake thing that I wanted you to do at the other corners. When you look at this, look at the shape of our deceleration here. It's like the same at this point here, where you kind of roll off more, and it's really good, really, really good. So that's nice. Don't change that now. I think you've got that set. And in terms of the line, look how much better you are here. Now the one section that we look visually different, when I'm riding on board with you, I can tell you're doing it differently to me, is this right-hander. And the graph here really bores it out. How wide you are on the entry to that long right-hander. Now, I don't know what our respective times are like there, so let's see. I don't think you're losing a lot. Okay, so 841. And then by the time we're on the exit here, Not, yeah, so it's half a tenth. It's not a lot. It's not a lot, but I think there's something by taking this shorter distance into here. So let's just go on board with you just to show you how it looks when you're going in. Right, so this is it. So you see how far we are from the curb here, and we kind of stay out here, and we don't get close to the inside until
I see.
well, actually on
the
this lap,
apex,
yeah, on this lap we didn't actually make it, but by comparison, I mean, I know it's only half a tenth, but half a tenth is still half a tenth, and maybe you can find more than that if you do it better than I'm doing it. But let's get to there. Okay, so here's how it looks from my view on full speed. So I just like get there, hug, and then go. And in terms of throttle application, I just throttle and brake. You can see it here. So kind of trailing all the way in. And then just trying to keep it on the white line. I'm aiming to keep my right front kind of on that white line as long as I can until I actually get to the main exit. So yeah, I think I tended to find time the tighter I was. I could see it going greener. So then we've got this little kink where you've completely got rid of any difference between us. So that's great. And then the final corner. So we are losing a little bit through the final corner.
I'm just not used to the extra speed going in there yet.
Yeah, what is it you're doing different? You're just braking a bit harder. That's all. Line looks pretty much the same as me. You're just braking slightly harder. So, yeah, just maybe some more laps of getting used to that extra speed into there. Okay, so in terms of things to change, everything should stay basically the same, except we're going to not screw up this corner, this tight left-hander.
Easily said.
Yeah, I think. See, look, I think you overslowed it a bit, and then you start to pick up the gap. Look, we're not even into the corner yet. Look how early you start to get on the power back here, and so you're already at like 20% throttle when at the time I then get on the gap. Oh yeah, look at the minimum speed in the middle. You're going 6k quicker than me in the middle, but you've got we talk about this all the time, but you've got this slightly less desirable flat plateau of a kind of speed through the middle, whereas you could have been going quicker here, slightly slower as like a point, but then you'll be quicker on the exit as well. So we want a bit more of a pointy minimum speed there, that's all. So yeah, don't try and get on the power into that tight left-hander. Go in quicker so you don't need to get on the power. If you're able to get on the gas back here, you should have just been going quicker anyway. So yeah, just carry the speed rather than scrubbing off the speed and then getting back up to speed and pushing yourself deep. That's the main. I think that's really the main thing. There's a lot of other corners where you're doing it as well as, or if not better than me. So should we do one more run? We've got time for another run. Maybe five. Maybe let's do a short one. Let's just go do like a high pressure qualifying style, qualifying on high fuel run.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Let's go do that. At least it's like worst case scenario. It'll feel nice then when you do a real qualifying. But I think you're most of the way there now. You'll be competitive if you race here, especially with a bit more practice. You know, if you do a few more runs, you're going to be. It's nice. I feel like you know what you're supposed to be doing now, and now you just have to do that, rather than having to kind of figure out, is this right? Like, you now see this technique works. Just keep doing it.
How come I got a black flag?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you sped in the pits. Let me just remove it. All cleared now. And if you do dive into that corner slightly earlier, you will need to do a bit of those little brake nudges just to keep you tight. It'll probably try and sail wide of the apex too early if you don't add a little bit of extra braking just to keep it tight. But it also means you can start to creep up on the gas earlier as well. That's still pretty good considering your tyres are cold. You did really well through there.
Too deep.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too quick into there that time. I think even on super hot tyres that might have been a bit too quick. The gravel sounds they've added are so much better. It really sounds like you've got the stones knocking off the bottom of the car. Oh, the rears just weren't quite up to temperature enough yet, were they?
Nope.
Or they were overheated from something you did earlier, but I didn't notice you doing
Sorry
any
about
particular...
that.
Oh, no, don't worry. Keep going.
Shit.
It's okay, the car will just fix itself. But that's good information, though, that it might not be doable, because we haven't really tried doing it on the first flying lap yet.
Yeah.
So it might still need a 20% lift to get through the penultimate corner when the tyres aren't up to temperature. Better to get that wrong in this session.
Yeah.
The amount
Nice.
of gravel.
Bunch of gravel.
But it looks so good. At least you've driven a nice racing line through it now. I still think we can go in narrower into that corner, just send it in a bit earlier and then take the shorter distance. Right, let's do a couple more. Whilst you're doing these, I'm going to make some notes on that latest data.
I had to left a touch. I was going to be wide. Well, this wasn't the prettiest lap. I gave it my best shot.
Very nice. I'm just finishing off the notes on here. There's a lot of green ticks.
Oh, I nailed it this time.
Okay, keep going then.
No.
Oh no!
Fuck. Oh well.
It's okay. You don't have to get it all perfect in these hours. You'll be happy with it, right? You can, if you can see my screen, you'll see these notes that I've been writing. I'm nearly there. So where are we here? Yeah, interesting.
I was up almost 3/10 just through the first 4 turns.
Right. So I'm just going to write these final notes. So we're on that tight right-hander, which is the third to last corner. I didn't actually see the speed trace here, but your speed is higher than mine, but you're going so much further, you still lose half a tenth. I'm just going to write this in.
That's the horseshoe turn.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go over all of these in just a sec. And final corner. I don't know whether you've nailed it since then, but there is potential for higher apex speed without changing much else.
And are you going to in through that last corner in 5th?
I am, yes, I am. Although I've done it both ways, and it wasn't that much different, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going through there in 5th. Okay, so all I've said is we need a cleaner exit to the final corner on the previous lap to avoid losing that 1/10. But, you know, I'm sure you'll do that. It's just on this lap you didn't. Turn 2, 3, 4, looking great. And, you know, and you said you've nailed it again on one of those last laps. So that's great. This one we spoke about, just avoid carrying too much entry speed so you then run wide. I think you know that, and that was just a bit of an anomaly. The next corner on this piece of data here, that was obviously a mistake. So, but there's still potential. How did I write it? There's still potential to go quicker if you can judge the exact amount of braking versus tyre scrub. So how much you brake and then roll off versus how much you're just scrubbing and turning in. You just need to keep doing it, basically. I'm sure you're getting closer. It's just, you just don't want to run off. You also don't want to, you don't want to go in so quick you run out of track and then drag a load of gravel on. But you also don't want to leave a bunch of time on the table. And then I've said slow down through. Oh, sorry, this next one's good. You're great through that fast left-hander uphill. Campter, I've just said slow down because you're making me look bad. The following corner, this note number 8. Again, you're basically there through here. It's good. We mentioned just a second ago. I think you can probably compromise a little bit of entry speed into here and therefore not cover as many meters and still come out with a maybe a slightly better overall time through that little section. Then the final corner, we just need to carry a bit more speed through. That's just on this lap though. I'm sure with a couple more laps you'll just be there anyway. But just before I go, and I do need to go because my other half will be waiting for dinner and and I'll be in trouble. Let me just get your last one in and I'll make it pink just so you've just done a slightly quicker lap there, haven't you? So this here, 22.6. Let's put that in bright pink just so they're all in there.
Okay. And I won't make you do this now, but because you need to go eat. But let me know when you think about the next time we meet.
Yes. So you said you're busy over the Christmas period. Is that right?
I leave on Christmas Day actually.
Okay.
And I come back on the 31st. So
You did massively improve this, by the way. You're way closer through that section that we made notes on. So that's really good. Sorry, carry on. So you leave on Christmas Day, you're back on the 31st.
Yep, back on the 31st.
I will message you tonight or tomorrow. You're still
Whatever.
a bit too wide through there. This one. Okay, so that's still valid. Yeah, in fact, that was even worse. You went in even quicker and came out even slower. So without that, that would have been even quicker. But this bit's better. And the other sections, God, don't tell me you got even quicker through Campsa. About the same, but still really good. Yeah. And the final corner. I think maybe we tried to go in a bit too quick and then ended up having to brake a bit too long. Yeah, so you haven't perfected the final corner and we haven't perfected this one here. But you're really not far off. You're really close. So just keep going. This is good.
Okay.
Right,
Awesome.
I've shared that with you. I'll stop the recording. I'll upload the video once I've had dinner.